I love my Land Rover, like most owners do, but there is one problem with it, and that is cooling. In every meaning of the word, both the engine cooling and cooling inside the cab. And that means that at the minute, with the warmer weather, it gets a little bit too warm for my liking. So today we're going to have a crack at solving all of these problems by revamping the entire cooling system on the car. Let's jump in. Now the first thing to do with any job like this is to get rid of all the old stuff and start again. That means taking basically from here forward, all apart, and throwing it in the bin. Now just between here and roughly here, where the winch is, there are the engine cooler, the fan for the engine cooler, the intercooler, the gearbox cooler and its pipes. And when we refit everything, there is also an aircon condenser to go in here and a dryer. And if I just show you how little space we're actually working with. So that down there is the fan, and that is how close it is to the intercooler. I mean, it's basically touching it. So we're really not working with that much room at all. So when we refit everything, there might be some precision engineering that goes on to make everything fit. And this is what I'm left with. Now, first things first, it's very mucky in here, so I'm gonna have to give it a bit of a clean, because there is literally probably a full millimetre of dirt there. So I'm gonna have to give it a clean to start off with, because I can't work with dirt. The second thing is this, which is the gearbox cooler. I've left that on in the hope that I don't need to re-bleed the gearbox after doing this. So hopefully, it's still connected to the pipes down here, so hopefully I can just keep this somewhere here and then just tie it back up when I make the new mount for it. So the first thing to do really is to fit the aircon pump, which is going to go in this space here. And I'm not sure, because we know where we put the new turbo on for the 8-speed, I'm not sure the aircon pump that I have will actually fit in there. So there might have to be some modifications for that. And the reason why I'm fitting the aircon compressor first is because I won't be able to get to it once the radiator's in. I do actually have quite a bit of space in here now just to do any shoring up, do any jobs that I've been meaning to do for a while. Whilst the radiator's out, I've got plenty of space. The other thing is I want to reroute the power steering pipes, which run along here, which you can't quite see, and then they run over the top here and then down to the reservoir, which is over there. I want to reroute them probably along the bottom of the chassis rail, along here, probably on the other side of it. So that's something that we need to do whilst we've got plenty of room. For the aircon pump mount, I know that the best OEM bracket to use is the one from a twin turbo engine. They make the most compact setup, so it had the best chance of fitting with one of those. I had one on the shelf, so I decided to give it a go. Okay, granted, the aircon pump does actually fit in this hole here. However, we still have a problem in that it's too close to the steering box. The gap between them is what, 2.5 mil if we're lucky, and we need more than that because we need to account for when the engine moves when we're going along the road, so they don't just crash into each other. So what we're gonna have to do is take all this garbage back off, get rid of the 335 mount and make our own, which will make the aircon pump closer to the block and therefore further away from the steering box. The next problem we'll have is that the standard aircon belt won't fit because we're moving the aircon pump away from its standard position. Usually it goes around the crankshaft here and then just goes straight onto it, just a single belt. And yeah, that's not going to fit. So we're going to have to make our mount, fit the aircon pump, measure what belt we do need, and then try and find one off any other random car. Or just use a stretch belt, which is probably the way I'm going to go. This is what I've come up with. It's not the prettiest thing in the world, and I don't think it is the strongest thing in the world, but I do think it'll work. This will mount the air compressor as close to the engine block as we can possibly get it. And hopefully that'll mean that we've got plenty of room between the steering box and the air compressor. This just fits up here like the standard one did, like so. Yeah, let's see if it works. Because if this doesn't work, I literally have no other ideas. Right, well there we go, there is one aircon pump fitted and it's very sturdy, if I may say so myself. Now that took a lot longer than I expected it to, probably because I didn't expect to have to make a mount, but we've done it now and it works. There is now a good sort of 2 fingers width between the steering box and the aircon pump. There is, however, probably 2 mil in between the turbo and the air compressor. That's not a problem really because they're fixed to one central point and they're not going to move independently of each other. So that's fine. Now we've done that, we've got 2 more issues. One of them being that this, a little adapter pipe that comes with the BM aircon pump doesn't fit because the pipe now crashes into the turbo and the steering box simultaneously, so that we'll have to sort out. And also this belt which I bought to do the job is way too loose, so it goes round the crankshaft and then goes around here, and you can see, look, we've got this much spare. So I'm gonna have to find a belt off another car, I don't know which car, 4-ribbed aircon belt that'll work for that. But not to worry, because we have plenty of other things to be getting on with whilst we're waiting for that to arrive. Right, moving swiftly on to anything that isn't making aircon compressor brackets, I'm going to tell you about the new cooling setup that we're going to have on this car. So, starting from the grille side and working our way inwards, we're going to still have the gearbox cooler, but we're going to put a little fan on this just to keep it extra cool. Moving inwards, we're going to have our aircon radiator, and then we're going to have the intercooler, and then we're going to have the radiator, which I have here. And thank you very much to GPI Racing for sending me this. It's a very, very nice piece of kit. I'm sure it'll do wonders for the cooling of my car. And then on the other side of that, we're going to have our radiator fan, our big cooling fan, which I have here. Now, this is not a brand new fan. In fact, it's quite an old fan. And I got it out of a Volvo V70, but weirdly, it fits almost perfectly on the back end of that radiator, with a little bit of modifications. It is also a very, very powerful fan, as you will see from this short demonstration. So the first thing I need to do is tidy up in here a little bit, reroute these power steering pipes to along the chassis, just so they're not going to get in the way, and then fit this radiator properly to the front of this radiator. Before fitting the fan, I lined the edges where it would contact the radiator with this engine strip. Firstly, to minimise the fan rubbing on the radiator and causing a leak, but also to help seal the air in the fan shroud and make it more efficient. Right then, by my calculations, this shouldn't be far off. fitting. And of course, when you're putting it in, everything gets in the way. Absolutely everything. Right, I'm not saying I'm worried yet, but the radiator where it's sat now is roughly where it needs to be, maybe just a bit forwards. And it's mounted quite a long way forward of where the old one was because the fan's on this side. We've got a considerable less amount of space to put the intercooler, the aircon radiator and the gearbox cooler in front of that. But there's nowhere else for it to go. I reckon we've got 10mm between the fan and the engine. So there's really can't go any further back. Short of moving the engine, there's nothing else we can do. So I need to re-drill some holes down here in the chassis so that the radiator mounts can sit into there. And then once that's done, I'll make some little straps that go from the slam panel over the top just to hold it in place. Otherwise, when we put the pipes on, it'll just fall towards the engine, and that won't be ideal, obviously. Oh, right, that is it. After an entire day of bracket making, everything's in the right place. It did end up being quite tight because I can barely fit my hand, well, I can't fit my hand between the winch and the aircon condenser. That may cause us a problem in the future because if all the winch cable starts bunching up on one part of the drum, it might start fouling with the aircon condenser. I could just make a little plate to go down the back of here to stop that from happening, but that's a job for another day. So, just before I go home and rest my weary eyes, I'm going to take it all back out again, paint and weld all the brackets properly, and then put it all back in. Yes, I am back, and God, that was a long day yesterday making brackets. Today's job is to do the coolant pipes and the air intake pipes. I am just going to be making these out of whatever I've got lying around the workshop for two reasons. One, because my brain cannot picture how a pipe will run without it already being there. So I really struggle to order the pipe that I need if I don't know what I need. The second reason is that I'm cheap. Well, I think what I might do, once all the pipes are in and everything, and I know what I need, then I will order some nice stuff and redo it and make it look all nice. Now, piping behind wiring is one of my least favourite jobs ever to do on a Land Rover. So, I'm not going to talk whilst I do it, I'm just going to do it and then I'll see you at the end. all the pipes are now done, and luckily I managed to do it with just everything I had lying about, which is good. Now, the keen-eyed viewers among you all will have noticed that this is not the same day that I've filmed the footage that you've just seen. Namely because my hair is longer or shorter. When did I get my hair cut? And also because my hat is completely different because the dog ate my old one. Anyway, there is in fact around about a month between the footage that you've just seen of me putting all the pipes in to today. And the reason for that is because we've been very busy, but also because I wanted to get all of the coolant system in before I ordered any of the aircon stuff. It is incredibly expensive, so I didn't want to order anything that wouldn't fit, but crucially, I didn't want to order anything that we simply wouldn't need. What that time has proved to us is that the new coolant system is in, it works, there's no overheating issues, even when we're towing, which is great. So now we can start looking at the aircon system.
For those of you who don't know what's included in an aircon system, here's a crash course. Starting from the compressor, which is powered off a belt on the engine, we run a pipe from there to the condenser, which is the radiator at the front of the car. From there we run a pipe to a cylinder called a dryer, where witchcraft occurs. Nobody really knows what happens in there. Then we run another pipe to the evaporator, which for us is already fitted on the dashboard, so we don't need to put another one of those in. Then from there we run a pipe back to the compressor to complete the circuit.
Now, somewhere in this system, we need 2 charge ports to get gas into and out of the system. We need one in the high pressure side and we need one in the low pressure side. Now, I have been very lucky indeed, and I have found these, which are the original aircon pipes off this very car, and they include both of the charge ports that we need. So that's that sorted. The last thing we need to think about is the fact that the compressor can't run 100% of the time. Even in normal cars, they go off and come back on when the pressure gets too high or too low in the system. What we need is something that talks to the Discovery 2 buttons and all the Discovery 2 system, and also talks to the BMW compressor that we've got fitted. For that, I've been in touch with Tom at Flatcap Engineering, and he says he can upgrade my dashboard controller so that it'll control all the aircon as well. So once I've fitted all of the aircon system, I'll get in touch again and he'll come down, do his science, and then make it all work. And will be cool for the first time in 2 years that this engine's been in the car. Right, we've got a problem. In fact, we've got 2 problems. One is that the filming of this video has gone on for way too long now. I started this project in May and it's now December. In fact, it's the 17th of December and we're about to finish for Christmas. So we've kind of missed the part in the year when we need aircon, but at least it'll be ready for next year. The second problem that we've got is that the aircon pump that you saw me fit earlier on in the video is now in my hand. And the reason it's in my hand is because when I fitted the pipes to the engine, they were so close to the turbo inlet pipe that they pushed it and prevented it from sealing. So I was doing a job with the car the other day, came to it, went up the hill away from our building, and it had such a massive boost leak that I couldn't drive it any further. So I had to come, quickly take off the aircon pump and then go about my routine. But now it is time to fix that problem, and I have the perfect plan about how to do that. Now, this is the rocker cover off an M57, the engine I have in my car. And this here is the air filter housing. The pipe that's causing us a problem comes out of the front of here and then down to the turbo. What we need to do is lose that pipe completely, and by extension lose the air filter housing off the top of here. A lot of people do it for putting like top mount turbos on, for example, but what we're going to do is gain a lot more space in the engine bay and also be able to get to all the pipe work and everything underneath. So what you can do with these rocker covers is just chop off the side here all the way along, making sure you keep all these bolts intact. You can go along here, all the way along here, and then it loses this entire bit of plastic. And then what you will end up with is the same rocker cover that comes fitted as standard to the twin turbos. So that's the job for today. Unfortunately, what you have to do to be able to do that is take all of the top end of the engine off, including the injectors, all of the injector harness, blah, 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 blah. Big job. Well, let's just get on with it. And this is what we're left with. It's basically a thinner version of the rocker cover, obviously with the air filter deleted. I may have made a slight mess of this little bit here, but we'll gloss over that bit, and I don't think it's actually going to make any difference with the functionality of the rocker cover. So all that I really need to do now is shove this in the parts washer, because there's plastic all over it, and change the rocker cover gasket, and then refit it. We are finally ready for the last piece of the puzzle in this project, and that is the aircon gas. Now, I do have an aircon gas machine, and this is it. Now, whilst I do have one, I don't really know how to use it. So most of what I'm going to be doing now is guesswork. What I do know about aircon is that the gas is very, very dangerous. I know a lad who was taking the aircon gas out of his car, and he pressed the little valves inside these outputs here, and it went all over his face and burnt his face. It's quite dangerous. So you pop these on like so. What I do know about this machine is that you can use it to test the aircon system before you start putting gas in it, because as I'm sure you'll know, if you put aircon gas into the atmosphere, it is very bad and all the polar bears will die. So it does that by creating a vacuum in the system and then trying to maintain that vacuum over a set time. So we're going to set that to 15 minutes and then we'll see how it goes. Right, and whilst that does that, I'm going to let you into a little bit behind the scenes, because this project has been on the back burner now for so long that it has just tipped into September of 2025. So we've kind of missed the curve of weather in the UK for needing aircon again, but no matter. And between now and the last time you saw me on screen cutting the side of the rocker cover off, this engine has been completely removed, one of our full and comprehensive services done to it, just like our customer engines, and then refitted to a proper standard. When we originally did the conversion, it was the first ever conversion that I ever did, and everything was just a bit bitty, and it's been used as a testing vehicle, so everything's been chopped and then put back, and it was all just getting a bit of a mess. And when people said, oh, let's have a look at your BMW Discovery 2, I didn't really want to open the bonnet because everything was just a bit of a mess, and it didn't really show the standard of work that that I wanted it to. So we've done it all to a proper standard now. We've done quite a bit of work, which I'll put some pictures on screen, you can have a look at what we've done. But crucially, the aircon system is still the same as it was before, so you've not missed anything. Right, that's passed the vacuum test with flying colours now. There's no leaks in this system, which is great. So now what we need to do is put gas in the system. And for this we need to use a bit of professional guesswork. I've never done this before and no one's really told me how to do it in the past. So logically, I think if we research how much gas is in the standard Discovery 2 system and then add a bit, because our system's a bit bigger, we can't be far off. So if I research how much gas is in a Discovery 2 standard aircon system. Okay, so it uses that type of refrigerant and it requires, it says approximately 700 grams of refrigerant for its air conditioning system. So if our system's a little bit bigger, I think if we use 800 grams, it's a number plucked out of thin air, but if we then change this to 800, there we go. And I guess we'll just see if that works. Right, whilst it's filling it with gas, I'm going to explain to you a little bit about the fan situation, because usually on an aircon system, you have a fan that's purely dedicated for the aircon. I don't have that for two reasons. One being space. I don't really have that much space, not really enough for a fan, especially when the winch is there. And reason number two is that my cooling fan is that big that I think I won't need a second fan. So when the engine needs to be cooled down, that fan gets activated, and when the aircon is on, that same fan gets activated. Tom at Flatcap has already been down to sort all that out. That all runs through the dashboard control, so that's all fine. So in theory, once this is done, if it has the right amount of gas, of course, it should work. But I've realised that this might be slightly hard to show you it actually working, because apart from me just saying that it works, there's not really anything else I can do. So I bought myself a present. It's this IR thermometer. It's one of them laser temperature taker jobbies, and basically whatever you point it at, it takes its temperature. So 16.2 degrees at the top of the speedo there. So let's just call that a baseline temperature of what it is in the workshop today, because that's been sat here for a bit. So what I'm going to do now is start the engine up and get the aircon on, and then we'll take the temperature of the little vents where the aircon comes out, and we'll see what it gets to. Probably not an accurate reading, but it shows you guys at home that it is actually doing something. It's not just me saying, oh yeah, it works really well, see in a bit. Right, let the test begin. Right, straight away we've got 11.3. That's after the aircon being on for 30 seconds. Ramping up now. 8.2 degrees there. 7.9 degrees. Doing well. 7.3 degrees. 6.7 degrees, 6.2. I think that's where we're going to get it to, roughly. Still quite impressive. Well, there you go. Sorry it's not the exciting ending to that video that you all expected, but the trouble is aircon's just not that exciting. Before I let you go, there is one change that I made to the aircon system in the end, and that is the bracket that holds the compressor to the side of the block, because mine was rubbish, and there is now a company who make them, and you can get them on the House of Torque website. I think the company makes them called Kingpin or something like that. But yeah, head over to the House of Torque website if you want to do this kind of stuff. There is an aircon pump bracket on there. One thing to get excited about is the fact that we're now building up a massive stock of items to go on our website. In fact, we are now suppliers for Rattlex, who do underbody protection and other accessories for your Lannies, and they've given us the opportunity to put their stuff on our website. So please do go and check that out. In the meantime, do me a favour and click the likey button if you've enjoyed this video, and also leave me a comment because I want to know what project you guys want me to work on next. See you next time.